President Obama ordered a review of U.S. detention policies at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Next, Vice Admiral Patrick Walsh, Vice Chief of Naval Operations, spoke to reporters on the findings of his review. From the Pentagon, this is about 30 minutes.
Good afternoon and welcome. On January 22nd, the President signed an executive order requesting the review and disposition of individuals detained at Guantanamo Bay Naval Base and closure of the detention facility. As part of that executive order, DoD was directed to review the conditions of confinement at Guantanamo Bay Detention Facility and ensure that detainees are held in conformity with all applicable laws governing the conditions of confinement, including Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions. Secretary Gates asked the Vice Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Patrick M. Walsh, to conduct this review. He has completed that review. The Secretary has endorsed it and sent it on to the President this weekend. And today, Admiral Walsh is here to share his findings as well as some of his recommendations from this review. Admiral, thank you very much for taking some time today to do this.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Pursuant to the President's executive order signed on January 22nd, the Secretary of Defense tasked me to review the conditions of confinement at Guantanamo Bay Naval Base to determine if all detainees there are being held in conformity with all applicable laws governing the conditions of confinement, including Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions. I delivered my report to the Secretary on Friday. The review team conducted 13 days of investigation on site that included more than 100 interviews with JTF Guantanamo leadership, support staff, interrogators, guards, multiple announced and unannounced inspections of all camps during daylight as well as nighttime operations. We reviewed numerous reports, video, discipline records, and observed many aspects of daily operations. Collectively, we talked to a number of detainees and observed daily activities, including enteral feedings and interrogations. The review team also solicited a sampling of opinion, studies, and published works which reflected the perspective of detainees and other concerned interest groups, many with recommendations to improve detention conditions. We solicited and carefully considered submissions from many of those interested non-governmental organizations. After considerable deliberation and a comprehensive review, it is our judgment that the conditions of confinement in Guantanamo are in conformity with Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions. In our view, there are two components in the scope of the compliance review taken from Common Article 3. First is the explicit prohibition against specified acts. Common Article 3 of the Geneva Convention prohibits the following acts: violence to life and person, taking of hostages, outrages upon personal dignity, in particular humiliating and degrading treatment, passing of sentences without judgment pronounced by a regularly constituted court. Any substantiated evidence of prohibited acts discovered in the course of the review would have warranted a finding of non-compliance with Common Article 3. We found no such evidence. Secondly, determining conformity with Common Article 3 requires an examination of the directive aspect of the article, this being that persons shall in all circumstances be treated humanely. This element of the effort demanded that the review team examine conditions of detention based on our experience and professional backgrounds, informed and challenged by outside commentary. As a result of that effort, we find that the conditions of confinement in Guantanamo also meet the directive requirements of Common Article 3 of the Geneva Convention. We examined 27 areas of interest, which would help us determine if conditions were in compliance with Common Article 3. Among those were shelter, clothing, food and water, practice of religion, recreation, the detainee discipline system, protections against violence, sensory deprivation and humiliation, human-to-human contact, health care, including the treatment of hunger strikers, interrogation, and access to attorneys and outside entities. These areas of interest covered all aspects of detention conditions, from detainee arrival to detainee transfer and repatriation. They include a review of the physical structures of the detention operations, the physical health of the detainees, but also the mental well-being of the detainees as well. The team compared their findings in each of the 27 areas of interest to the governing authorities and outside commentary in those respective areas. In order to satisfy our tasking, we needed to determine whether prohibited acts were taking place and whether detainees were being treated humanely. We conclude that the conditions at Guantanamo conform to Common Article 3. From our review, it was apparent that the chain of command responsible for the detention mission at Guantanamo consistently seeks to go beyond the minimum standard in complying with Common Article 3. We found that the chain of command endeavors to enhance conditions in a manner as humane as possible, consistent with security concerns. In this regard, our team has identified a number of items which we recommend the Department of Defense continue to pursue consistent with that approach described above, or in several cases, items that we recommend for JTF Guantanamo. In this report, we do not intend to suggest that these recommendations are items that the Department must pursue to satisfy Common Article 3. Rather, they are items that we view as consistent with the approach of the chain of command to continually enhance conditions of detention. Broadly stated, among the things we recommend, first, in our view, socialization or interaction among detainees is important because of the length of time individuals at Guantanamo have been detained. Current socialization practices conform with Common Article 3. However, the team believes that in certain camps, further socialization is essential to maintain humane treatment over time. In our opinion, the key to socialization is providing more human-to-human contact, recreation opportunities with several detainees together, intellectual stimulation, and group prayer. Second, the review team recognized that detainee access to high-quality health care services is a fundamental aspect of humane treatment that is greatly enhanced by appropriate human-to-human contact and socialization between detainees and health care providers. JTF Guantanamo appreciates that delivery of quality health care requires trusting relationships between providers and their patients. Although this type of trusting relationship is difficult to achieve in a detention environment, the review team makes recommendations that can serve to enhance further the high quality of care already delivered to the detainees. Third, as long as JTF Guantanamo is operational, it will continue to require extensive resources. The most significant activity in this regard involves the continued support for camp improvement projects currently underway that affect the ability to provide socialization opportunities. Of significant concern is that the department continued to properly resource Guantanamo until every detainee departs. Enhancement of humane treatment as the operation continues and as the detainee population spends more time under U.S. control will also require strengthening of internal controls and continued dedication of both funds and personnel. As a related matter, the review team recommends additional actions to maintain the protections that separate current intelligence gathering from healthcare. Fourth, we endorse the use of video recording in all camps, in all interrogations. The use of video recordings to confirm humane treatment could be an important enabler for detainee operations. Just as internal controls provide standardization, the use of video recordings provides the capability to monitor performance and maintain accountability. Finally, the review team has also made several recommendations to sustain a humane treatment standard in the face of individual detainees' uncertainty and their anxiety about their own futures. We conclude that certainty regarding the detainee's future has a direct correlation to detainee behavior and therefore conditions inside the camp population. There are still some detainees in Guantanamo, despite court orders to the detainee's favor. Understandably, these detainees continue to express their extreme frustration with their continued detention. This is a great concern to the review team because it complicates conditions of detention. Therefore, the review team strongly endorses the continued interagency process to resolve these detainees' future. Again, and in conclusion, the detention mission in Guantanamo is being conducted humanely in accordance with Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions. I'm now ready to take your questions, Jim.
Admiral, did the review team either talk to directly or at least review claims of former detainees who claim to have been tortured? If so, what did you find? If not, why not?
The executive order directed us to take a look at conditions today.